As the title states, this presentation analyzes the effects of restoration on Japanese paintings. This presentation will follow the contents displayed on the screen and discuss the effects of restoration practices on Japanese paintings that are deemed valuable cultural properties. First, to begin this presentation, I will explain the basic materials and structures that compose a Japanese painting, and the basic principles lying behind Japanese painting restoration processes. In various restoration processes, there are some important elements that affect the appearance of painting, but I will specifically mention two major factors today. The first is color choice for backing paper, and the second is methodology of toning. And in conclusion, how to treat and respond to the effect of restoration will be discussed. In this presentation, I will introduce specific examples of how the painting restoration practice in Japan affects paintings. The screen shows just some processes among the many other restoration processes practicing today. There are disassembling process of the mounting format before treatment, consolidation process for strengthening the paint layers, removal process of old backing paper being adhered from the back of a painting to support the painting structurally, infilling process for areas of loss, backing process by applying new washi paper for reinforcement. Damaged paintings are recovered by many other conservation processes. Over the 1,300-year history of Japanese paintings, many different materials have been used. The most commonly used materials are various plant-based paper and silk. For coloring, inorganic pigments and organic dyes are used. A finished painting is mounted in various formats for preservation so that it can be appreciated and worshipped. The typical mount formats are hanging scrolls, hand scrolls, can be viewed by hand scrolls, folding screens, and fusuma sliding doors. The hanging scrolls and hand scrolls can be viewed by rolling and unrolling. The folding screens and fusuma sliding doors can decorate an interior of a building and also can separate rooms easily by closing. To maintain the flexibility and durability for repetitive rolling and unrolling, multiple sheets of washi paper are adhered to back of the painting substrate, such as paper or silk with wheat starch paste. The screen shows a structure of a hanging scroll. The video shows a disassembling process of a hanging scroll. A hanging scroll, whether a painting or calligraphy, typically reinforced by several backing papers, from first, second, third to final backing paper adhered to the backside. When the final backing paper and third backing are peeled off, the silk borders around the painting will come off. Also, by removing the second backing, the first backing, which is adhered directly to the back of the painting, is revealed. By adhering several layers of washi paper, the painting is supported and can be repeated rolling and unrolling. As painting deteriorated over time, all sorts of damage occur. Dents, creases, and cracks, tears, losses due to insect damage, and the peeling of paint layers are types of damage that can be found in common. To repair these types of damage, mounting must be disassembled first to proceed treatments to each various damages. Next, all the backing paper must be changed with new fine wash paper. The core of the restoration processes is the reinforcement of the structure to support the painting. When practicing such treatment that I just defined as the core repair, it goes without saying that appearance of the painting will be affected. Therefore, what is necessary is basic principle to show guidance during repair. The representative basic principles and their contents are shown on the screen. The first is reversibility. Reversibility indicates the possibility of returning the painting to a state before intervention occurred. The second is recognizability. As the name implies, this refers to the techniques and approaches to distinguish the intervened parts from the original work done by the painter at the time of production, for being able to visually differentiate the repair parts from the rest. The third principle is compatibility. This relates to the ability to harmonize the new material used at the time of intervention with the original material used by the painter at the time of production without causing excessive friction and being as compatible as possible. Let me show you a detailed example of repairs that put into practice under these principles. As has been explained, the core of restoration is the application of new backing paper. When replacing the backing paper to a painting made of silk, I will show how the color choice for the backing paper affects the painting. Silk has a high transparency in the first place and is a fabric, so the color of the newly adhered backing paper immediately affects how the surface of the painting is seen. For a piece of irradiated aged silk, we apply a thin plain minnow paper that uses no dyes on the left. On the right, we adhere a thin minnow paper that has been lightly dyed with carbon black ink sumi. For this, you can see the color of the painting of the backing paper has a significant influence on the way the surface of the painting is seen. It goes without saying that a large number of paintings has gone through repairs that continue to this day. Looking at the painting restored in the later half of the Edo era means from 1603 to 1868, when restoration records were kept, many of the paintings used a paper like this ink-dyed thin minnow paper sample on the right for the backing. By using ink-dyed paper for the backing paper, the whole surface of the painting becomes darker, and the painting itself takes on a profound atmosphere over time. However, on the other hand, the delicate ink lines and subtle gradations become more difficult to see. If we use the bright colored paper for the backing paper, as shown on the sample on the left, the subtleties of the painting are easier to see. However, tears, creases, and other damages that occur over the years are also easier to see. The silk has become browner when the painting was first made, and this has to be taken into consideration as a part of the careful judgment needed to choose the color of new backing paper. Looking at the part of the letter that Yosabu-son, a painter who was active in the 18th century, wrote, we learn that he was very particular about the color of the backing paper for use. Please look at on the screen the summarized message. Dear Omiya Gohei, painting on silk was delivered. It seems that a paper dyed in light black ink used as backing for painting. This is not what is desired. You will never find this sort of thing in China. White paper should be used for backing. If you use ink-dyed paper as backing paper, it lowers the dignity of the artwork and it ruins the way the color appears. I'm sorry, but I would like you to look carefully at this matter, Buson. It is difficult for us to know the intentions of the original creator of work when it comes to backing paper. The silk material has deteriorated and changed over time. But it is clear that the color choice of backing paper has a great influence on the painting itself. We have created a simulated display where we change the color of the backing paper for a painting. Old Pine Tree and White Phoenix by Ito Jakuju, a painter who was active in Kyoto during 18th century. This is an extremely rare example how the painting looks differently if being restored with white or black backing paper. Even though it is the same painting, the overall impression of the work and the color contrast changes so dramatically. In places where original painting substrate is missing, we compensate with material that is close to the original. Following to the current restoration principles of recognizability and compatibility, we don't add any restorative color or drawing lines to the infilled parts. This restoration principle has been in place since the late 1960s for restoration of national treasures and important cultural properties. The earliest example of this restoration principle can be seen in the restoration of national treasure, the Tale of the Counselor Ban scroll from 1969 through 1971. The Otemon Gate at Heian Palace was engulfed in flames due to arson, and columns of black smoke partially damaged. As with past restoration practices, reconstructive retouch was applied. Restoration at this time meant that after the restorative coloring was applied, auxiliary material was removed. After removal, paper in the same shape as the newly missing parts was attached. After restoration, you can see on the display that color adjustments were made so that restorations could be distinguished from the original. This restoration was conducted about 50 years ago. Today, toning is performed to differentiate easily between the original and compensated parts. This way of toning will improve the application of the original work. How were toning colors decided before the restoration principle has been established for works designated as as national treasures and important cultural properties. Let me introduce several examples. This is the beginning part of Scroll of Minister Kibi's Adventures in China, stored at Museum of Fine Arts, Boston. In the middle of the display, around here, around the large missing part, the various colors are painted and they look all blurred. This treatment was done at the time when the scroll was sent to Kyoto for the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. This way of retouch technique by applying blurring color was tried to achieve a seamless connection with surrounding colors, and it was typical method used during that time. There was also a time when restorative coloring was applied. In Japan, various ways to make toning colors are tried. Please look at the image of the illustrated legend of Tamataregu Shrine. This painting was restored about 50 years ago. Some losses are infilled and colored to reconstruct the shape of Torii Gate. The top of the Torii Gate in red circle was colored restoratively. The outline of the areas of loss is traced in red line. The part of the tree and roof of the building were lost, so that constructive retouches are added in the past restoration. We currently and continuously have been practiced the toning method that achieves both recognizability and compatibility. In the past, when reconstructive toning and retouches were added to a missing part, careful judgment is needed to decide whether such part is treated in repair processes. Please look at the image of Fudo-myo kept in Manshuin Temple. The right side of this screen shows the simulated image of which area of loss is painted in solid brown. You can see the loss of original is excessively found around above head of the deity. If we take a close look at the head and we see the expressions of swirl around the head of Fudo-myo are different from his temporal and parietal regions. During drawing lines of swirling hair on the top of his head and around his face were painted smoothly and homogeneously. It is noted that restorative coloring and retouches on this infilled area are performed in the past. Also, stylistically, Fudo-myo's swirling hair is usually represented in layers. It can be said that the retouches added during past restoration were not sufficient. However, when following the guidelines of current restoration practices, the retouched area of the deity head will be removed and the missing area will be replaced to the new infill, which does not have any reconstructive lines nor colors. From the viewpoint of the cultural value of this medieval Buddhist painting and its role as a statue of worship, the restoration policy of this case was established and was decided not to remove the details of the head. Akiyoshi Watanabe, a cultural ministry investigator and the former chief of the Tokyo National Research Institute for Cultural Properties, talks in his lecture on painting repair theory, and he states difficulty of how to treat the traces of past repair. It can be said that the value of things added later is low, but from a historical perspective, the work is made up of those additions as well. When removing items, we need to think carefully about how it alters the painting. This is the difficulty of painting restoration. Conclusion. The core of the painting restoration in Japan is structural reinforcement. While restoration fixes damages to a painting, at the same time, it can alter the way a painting is seen. The color selection of the backing paper on the painting, the method for making toning colors for missing parts, and workarounds for tracing past repairs can have significant influence on how a painting is seen, so careful judgment is needed. Painting restoration is about preserving paintings for posterity. Many choices and decisions need to be made. To do this, not only technical repair specialists, but art historians, conservation scientists, and those from other research areas should exchange ideas to steer the direction of the repairs. The record of that exchange of ideas in many forms is necessary for painting and for preservation. Thank you very much.